Hey everyone, my name is Logan Pawlowski, and I'm currently a third-year PhD student at the Wyant College of Optical Sciences. I also completed my bachelor's in optics at this college, and this is my second year serving as the primary Department of Defense Graduate Consultant. This last year, I was awarded the National Outstanding Graduate Research Scholar, and I was awarded the DoD Smart Fellowship. I've been working with the Department of Defense for about 5 years now. And I'm actually filming this video just, at my home, just down the street from my AFRL base. And the purpose of this video is I want to help you, whoever is watching this, write the best fellowship essay possible and structure your application strategically to help you secure funding in this seemingly complicated federal framework. In this video, I want to talk about NDSEG. I'm going to walk through it specifically, what it is, first and foremost, how to apply, what to watch out for, and the mistakes that I think applicants can avoid if you just know the rules early. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with the basic information. What even is NDSEG? NDSEG stands for the National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship. It is a Department of Defense fellowship for graduate students in science or engineering fields, which optics is, of course, whose research aligns with DoD relevant interest areas. So the big idea is this. NDSEG is not just asking, are you a strong student? NDSEG is asking, are you a strong researcher who is working on a problem that matters to national defense? So the first thing that I would do, if that is you, is I would go to the official NDSEG website. Do not rely on old university pages, Reddit threads, PDFs that might be from another year, because the application and the rules do change, and they likely will continue to change year to year, as that's how it's been in the past. So go to the NDSEG website, start with the eligibility page, the application requirements, the FAQ, or the frequently asked questions, and the DoD supporting agencies page. Those are all linked on the main website, as you can see here. For the application, the major pieces usually are your personal information form. That usually goes pretty quick. A personal statement, a research proposal, transcripts, a CV or resume section, and 3 reference letters or evaluations. One thing that NDSEG does different than other fellowships is that the references are not always traditional letters. They may be structured evaluation forms, so ask your references early and make sure that your references also understand the deadline. I'm not going to say specifically what the deadline is because, as I mentioned, that changes year to year. You should find that on the page. You can see for 2026, it is here. First thing, redaction of PII, or personally identifiable information. One of the biggest things for NDSEG that is different than other fellowships is to watch out for redaction. NDSEG applications are reviewed with identifying information removed, so you cannot include identifying details in the parts that they tell you to redact. So of course the question is, what counts as PII or personally identifiable information? At a minimum, do not include your name, your advisor's name, your university name, your lab name, your collaborators' names, or organization names. Also be careful with details that indirectly identify you, like a very specific observatory, a unique research group, a named award, a named fellowship, journal title, conference title, or even a sentence like, at the University of Arizona, I work with Professor X on Y. A good rule is, if someone can Google one of the phrases that you put into your application and figure out who you are, redact it or generalize it. But this does not mean that your application has to become vague. You still need to communicate clearly. The trick is being able to replace identifying details with functional descriptions. For example, instead of writing, I work in Professor Ashok's adaptive optics lab at the University of Arizona, you could write, I work in an optics laboratory developing adaptive optics methods for atmospheric imaging. Instead of, I work at the Holyoke Observatory using the Air Force telescopes for my research, you could write, my work uses a large aperture astronomical telescope facility to study and advance wavefront sensing technologies. The goal here is to preserve the technical substance while removing the identity trail. Next up, the personal statement. For the personal statement, I would not treat it like a life story. NDSEG is asking, what are your short and long-term goals? How do these goals develop? What have you already done to build toward them? And how does this fellowship fit into your path? A strong personal statement has a simple arc: motivation, preparation, and trajectory. You want the reviewer to understand why your research direction matters. You also want them to understand why, or how, I should say, how you are prepared to pursue it, and why NDSEG matters or is critical for enabling that path. For the research proposal, I would recommend a very clear structure. The problem. What is the scientific or engineering challenge? The defense relevance. Why would the DoD care? The research gap. What is missing from current approaches? Your approach. What will you actually do? And how is it different than those current approaches? Your milestones. Or in other words, what can reasonably be accomplished during this fellowship period? And finally, expected impact. Expected impact is basically saying, if this works, if what you're proposing works, what becomes possible? A common mistake is making the proposal sound like a broad research interest instead of a proposal plan. This should be a proposal plan. Don't just say, I am interested in using machine learning to improve resolution. Say what data you will use, what model or method you will develop, how you will validate it, what the success criteria are, and what risk exists if the first approach does not work. Next up, we're going to talk about the Broad Agency Announcement, or the BAA. This can be confusing because you are not applying to the BAA directly. For NDSEG, you must use a BAA to identify a DoD research area that your work aligns with. You usually need the BAA number or funding opportunity number and the title or research area along with this number. The best place to start for finding these things is to look at the NDSEG DoD supporting agencies page that I mentioned at the beginning, because this page links to relevant agencies. You can look at agency-specific funding pages like ONR, AFOSR, ARO, DARPA, and other DoD research offices. When you're searching, try using some of these terms. I'm going to give you some examples, although it's not limited to these. Site:/.mil broad agency announcement sensors. Or AFOSR BAA optics. Or ONR long range BAA autonomy. Or ARO BAA materials. Or DARPA BAA artificial intelligence. DARPA, in case you don't know, is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and a lot of research projects actually at this university are funded by DARPA. Now, when you finally find a possible BAA, sometimes it takes a little bit of searching. Do not panic about all the contracting language. You are not submitting a grant proposal for the BAA. You are simply using it to show that your research is connected to a DoD relevant interest area. My tip is to choose the BAA before you finish the proposal. Then you write the proposal so the connection is visible from the beginning. Somewhere near the introduction, say something like, this proposal aligns with DoD interest in blank. Put your general research area. By developing blank, put your technical contribution for blank, a defense relevant capability. The best NDSEG applications are not just technically strong, they are legible to reviewers. That means your first paragraph should make the problem understandable to someone that's near your field, but not inside your exact niche. Here's a simple sentence template. Current systems struggle to do X under Y conditions. This matters because Z. I propose to develop A. Test it using B and evaluate success by C. Using this template forces clarity. Now, a few practical tips for you. Start redacting early. Redaction is not a final 5-minute step. Do not be rushing to turn in your application and have to redact. Your CV, your personal statement, your research proposal, publications, awards, and references to institutions may all need cleanup. You'll go through it once, you'll miss something, you'll go through it again. That's what the graduate consultants do, is they help you find these things that might completely invalidate your application. Also, ask your references early and tell them about the redaction rule. They should not accidentally identify you, your advisor, or your university in their comments. Also, save the PDFs carefully and reopen them before submitting. Make sure the black boxes that you use for redacting are real redactions and not just visual highlights over text. Also, do not wait until the deadline to submit. Every single year, the portal goes down, people are doing it at the last minute, and there's a lag. Things are crashing, and it's a complete panic. The portals can be very stressful, not just for NDSEG, but across all the applications. The reference forms can lag. Every single year, the site glitches up, and there's always stories of students who can't submit because the site is crashing down from too much activity. In these cases, the deadline is usually extended, but just avoid all that stress by submitting early. Another tip, use examples online, but do not copy their structure blindly. Just read them for lessons, how they frame the DoD relevance, how specific their aims are, how they describe preparation, and how they balance technical detail with readability. The biggest strategic advice I would give you is NDSEG is not only a fellowship application, it is a communication exercise. You are trying to show that you can identify an important defense-relevant research problem and then propose a credible technical plan and communicate this plan without relying on the prestige of your institution, of your advisor, or your lab name. This is actually a useful constraint. This forces the application to stand on the strength of your idea and your preparation. So in summary, my recommended workflow is this. Confirm eligibility. Read the application requirements and the FAQ, or frequently asked questions. 3. Find a relevant DoD, BAA, or research area. 4. Outline your research proposal around problem, gap, method, milestones, and impact. 5. Draft your personal statement around goals, preparation, and fit. You're fit for this fellowship. 6. Build a redacted CV or curriculum vitae, resume. 7. Ask references early. Ask them early. Maybe follow up, remind them, and warn them about the PII or identifying information. 8. Proofread, specifically for the PII or indirect identifiers. And 9. Submit before the deadline. If you want to see examples, search for successful NDSEG personal statements and research proposals online and look at university fellowship offices that host these sample documents. Remember, just use these examples to learn structure, not to imitate content. Right now, it's currently 2026 in the summer. Caltech has a publicly posted winning NDSEG example, and MIT CommLab has a strong NDSEG writing guide. Be specific, be aligned with DoD interest areas, redact your PII, and just try to make the reviewer's job easy. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. That's my whole job. But even if I'm not a graduate consultant at the time you're watching this video, I'm going to put my personal email address on this video so you can still reach out to me then. I will happily answer any of your questions. So if you're watching this before 2028, which means I'm still a PhD student, you can just use my Arizona email, loganpawlowski@arizona.edu. If it's after 2028, use my personal one, loganpawlowski15@gmail.com. With that, good luck.